welcome to the inaugural episode of the Joe Regular Experience, where today I'm going to be talking with just a couple of regular Joes, having some regular conversation. So let's get right into it. All right, I am here with Birdie Hunter and Germcorp, talking about the action last week in the market. CPI numbers coming in better than expected, causing a big rally. A lot of stuff going on outside of just the CPI numbers. Birdie Hunter, we're going to go to you first. What did you think of the run-up? Where do you see this going?
Well, the run-up was unexpected to me. CPI data was unexpected. As you know, I'm living in Europe, and we see inflation rise month over month. Basically this whole year. So I was expecting the same thing to happen in the US. Although I do realize that your government decided to sell off some oil of the strategic oil reserve, and therefore your energy prices were a bit lower. I think that has a lot to do with it. With the CPI data, the reported data, let's call it that, not being as high as expected, and the run-up was overdone. I think the run-up was just way too high. I can see that people react positive on such news, but the way the markets and the indexes rose was just overdone. And that's because I do realize that we are one global economic center now. The US, Europe, we need to buy stuff from each other. And with the high dollar and the huge inflation in Europe, people have less spending power. Companies will be less profitable, and I don't see why they raise in value at this moment at all.
Okay, great take, and I love that the international aspect of it, as far as us. I wouldn't call it working together, but like you said, there is a lot of back and forth that we're keeping our eye on. Elections played into that. Do you? As far as an international perspective on our elections, those wrapped up Tuesday. Still haven't officially got the results, but it looks like we're headed towards gridlocked, which is typically a good thing for the market. So that could have played a little bit into the reaction. Again, we haven't got the official results, but it looks like the Republicans will have the House, the Democrats will have the Senate, and one thing we'll see spending being cut. So that could play a little bit into it as far as the short term. There's definitely some longer term ramifications when we get into the debt ceiling thing and stuff next year. So it's I think that played into it, but I don't think and also that our elections, although we have a lot going on now, it did go off in a social kind of aspect. It went off without any kind of riots, anything like that. So I think that gave a little bit of comfort, just a little. Although, like I said, things are playing out still. We still haven't got official results. Germcorp, your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, already. Well, so CPI comes in at 7.7. I think the market was looking for 7.9. Okay. Probably the biggest thing about it, I thought, was that the dollar got hit. And the reason that happened, because obviously they're thinking, okay, Fed's going to pivot now, so they're not going to be hiking rates up. So basically the dollar took a bit of a hit. And because of that, it makes anything that's priced in dollars cheaper. So that includes stocks, to be honest, yeah. So there could have been international funds taking advantage of that. Basically, they're buying stocks cheap. I would say it was overdone big time. The my personal feeling, it's like a tsunami. The tide goes out first, and I think, what's happened over the weekend. I mean, I think there's going to be a bit of a crash coming in on Monday in terms of like this tsunami turning around. Just overdone basically. I did follow the US elections, and I guess it wasn't quite the red tide that they're expecting. Then the FTX and bond markets were shut, so it's a bit difficult to to predict what's going to go on. But I just think it was really well overdone.
Well, and I think you did a great job of bringing us right into our next topic with FTX. Uh, a lot to unwrap there. Uh, happened. So it was kind of a week long saga with FTX, but it basically culminated into Friday's announcement of filing for bankruptcy. What is the lasting effect on this? What is the okay? What do you guys think is the short term effect? Do you think that this is an isolated incident and crypto moves on from this, and kind of the other exchanges are able to right the ship? Do you think that this loses faith in crypto? Do you think that that is being done on purpose to kind of destabilize it even more than it is, and push people towards something different? What do you guys see the ramifications of this? Birdie Hunter, we will go to you first.
Well, it was the first hit exchange, crypto exchange that was hit with confidence. Personally, my first subscription to an exchange was Binance, and basically more than a year ago, I could not get my euros out of that exchange. I had to literally open another account at Kraken, transfer my crypto out of Binance to Kraken to get it back into my bank account. So that was my first experience with problems at exchanges, and it kept going on for a year, and now we have this FTX problem. And my major concern is that what I've read, that there's 600 billion US dollar involved. And if this goes out of the market and institutes were holding that, this might be the start of that domino where a lot of people who are following the markets, basically invested in GameStop, AMC, we're waiting for. I mean, everything is so over leveraged. What happens if all of a sudden 600 billion US dollars in worth of crypto in this case just disappears? Who was borrowing cash from who, and who will suffer next? That's my major concern.
Well, yeah, and we're hearing the term the Lehman Brothers of crypto being thrown a lot. Everybody remembers them with the housing crisis. My fear, Birdie, is, and tell me if is that they pile everything into this. So a lot of, not, and obviously they won't be able to conceal everything, but similar to the way that Lehman Brothers was they were the one that took the hit, and a lot of places moved on. Will this be something that like I said, is are they going to be able to are they going to be able to push a bunch of shady stuff through on them, claim that it went through on FTX, and then basically absolve themselves? And then the other aspect of it is when you look at regulation. So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, crypto investors didn't want any regulation. It was supposed to be decentralized, this and that. Do you think more of these events, and we've seen this in other aspects of life, but we'll focus just on this. We've seen where people cry for a solution and people look towards the government to solve the problems. Do you think we see big voices coming out crying for legislation now to get some kind of regulations on the books, which I'm not saying would be 100% bad thing if the regulations target the exchanges, and you think there's enough fuel on that now? You have big names involved in this, and as far as America goes, you got Tom Brady. He was the face of FTX. You got institutions that their investments go beyond. You've got the political end of it now with the FTX making contributions to the Democratic Party, things like that. So there's a lot to unwind down there, and I wonder if it's just going to change the whole landscape of crypto or not.
Well, you asked a lot of questions.
I know, I'm sorry.
let me start with, will this be a Lehman Brothers type of thing? It could be, but I don't think FTX is the Lehman at this moment. I think this is the smaller domino. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see who was involved the most. I mean, I don't know, but I can imagine a bank like Credit Suisse being involved in this. And they were already struggling. And what happens if Credit Suisse actually is involved in this and they lose a lot of cash? They are short of cash already. Then that would be the next domino. And then who's involved in Credit Suisse? And so you carry on. So yes, it could lead to a Lehman Brothers type of thing. But this is only the start then. That's the way I look at it. This is not the end of it.
Perfect. What about the regulation end? Do you think that we see not just, do you think we see other exchanges as well as investors pleading for some kind of regulation now?
Well, that's the big aim, I think. A couple of years ago, I think when we first met 2 years ago, there was talks about crypto regulation. And all of a sudden, within 2 years, the governments are ready to implement their own cryptocurrencies. That went quick. So yes, I can see the Western governments all aiming for the introduction of their own cryptocurrencies somewhere in the beginning of next year. And how helpful is it that customers in crypto users lose confidence in the existing exchanges and then cry for help for the government to step in? I think that's the aim, but I also believe that people who are invested in crypto know the danger in that, because it's far less people involved in cryptocurrency than in the stock market, and people who are involved, they know how important decentralization of crypto is, and they are not ready and willing to accept government interference into, for instance, a coin like Bitcoin, and rightfully so, in my opinion.
Okay, well said. Well said. Germcorp. We'll start simple without the 20 questions. We'll just what's your thoughts just on a brief overlook of the situation with FTX?
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, to be honest, it came out of the blue. I wasn't really aware of the FTX too much. I mean, I don't trade crypto. My son does, and he he'd never keep any crypto on an exchange. I mean, that's rule number one, I think. So, the other thing that concerns me is like BlackRock, got involved with Coinbase and all the rest of it. And I think that once you got that lot involved in it, the decentralization of it becomes a bit worrying. So I think, the thesis for Bitcoin is starting to sort of dissolve basically for this decentralized thing, when they can monitor who buys it and all the rest of it. I just find that concerning, and I think they're all diving in now to say, well, I've lost so much money, I want this to be regulated. But it's like, well, you're going to destroy it because it's not meant to be like that. So the FTX thing, I've just been watching it, and it's a bit of a drama. Is this a big setup? I don't know. It's kind of been quite shocking, really, to see the people out there, the institutions that are involved in it, really. So when that popped up, and it could, like Birdie says, I go along with that. I mean, this could be the start of the domino, basically, which starts to affect it. And you're going to see more and more come out of it, no doubt. I mean, sort of, there's been some interesting stuff just done on the weekend, I don't think it's good for crypto. These central banks, they're certainly trying to go for the central bank digital currency. This would fit in with the plot nicely, I think. And that's my thoughts. I'm just going to watch it and see who's involved in it, and it's bound to have a big knock-on effect.
Okay, yeah, I think you guys are definitely onto something as far as it being a smaller domino, not being the big one.
Maybe MIA. We should follow up on this. I mean, if people who are invested in crypto or have been over the last 10 years, they lose confidence in the exchanges and in cryptocurrency as a whole because of events like this. How successful would it be to have a government introduce their own? How much trust is there from the people in their governments at this moment? I think they will have a very hard time if they continue with exchanges being put in out of business and things like that to gain any trust of the people.
Yeah, but historically we've seen governments create problems and then create fixes to them. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
And then you have the El Salvador. You have the example down there that I guess could be used as the argument, for it having to be backed by a government, because obviously they tried to implement Bitcoin as their currency down there, and it's not been too successful. So it's there's going to be a lot of ammo, and they're gonna talk about the good things of cryptocurrency. You know what I mean? And maybe the exchanges are the evil people. And we need regulation, just like on everything else. We need the government to protect us from ourselves.
Yeah. Good luck with that. We'll have to wait and see.
It's just strange that this has made the most noise as far as I watch stock news all day every day. Crypto is talked about, but never the way that it was covered last week. Never. And it's going to be funny to see who, because there's pension funds involved in this, even not huge ones, but when you look at the list of investors, you got the Ontario pension funds. So it's not just going to be a thing where it's like, oh well, Sequoia lost some money, although they're invested in there too. There is big players like that, but there's a lot of smaller players that maybe took a chance on crypto being the future, and I think it knocks any kind of momentum that crypto was having back 5 years, in my opinion. Just from a person who doesn't trade crypto, I follow it somewhat. Obviously, this has ripple effects into the stock market, into the economy, into every aspect of it. And this might be the first major event with cryptocurrency that we've seen. We've seen, well, we haven't seen it yet, but what we know is going to play so much into the stock market, as far as the ramifications of it. Because I think what Germcorp said, once BlackRock got behind Coinbase, that was a major red flag for me. And I know we talked about it extensively, that, kind of the mission statement has changed. Once you have banks behind this, and it's been a process. We've seen Visa get in on it, MasterCard. We've seen it slowly become, and then I think once BlackRock put out that statement, it wasn't just that BlackRock invested or partnered with Coinbase that worried me. It was that they invested with the intent of bringing institutional money into it. And it's hard for me to think that they won't be active investors, activist investors in cryptocurrency the way that they are in kind of every stock that they buy into, any asset that they buy into.
True.
So what does it all mean? Where, as far as for the future? So we got a month and a half left in this year. Last year, right around this time is right when we kind of started the bear market that I would say we've still been in. So taking last week's kind of run up, because I think we can all agree, just like when we're having a red day and we say zoom out, I think in the big picture, when you zoom out, we haven't made that much back. It's not like everything and all the problems obviously aren't solved. So what do you guys see? We'll wrap it up with this as far as how you see this playing out near future. Let's not go any further than the first of the year, because I don't think trying to predict anything past that is going to do us any good. But what do you see as far as the FTX thing, as far as Germcorp? I know you were talking about the UK pension funds, things like that. Do you think that we see anything erupt in the next 2 months, or do we see a little bit of a lull now? Birdie, I'll let you give your analysis first, there, buddy.
Yeah, I don't see any positive developments on the global scale. Um, Winter is coming. I was reading the weather or watching the weather forecast, and somewhere end of coming week, we might get some cold weather first in Europe. Then the energy problems will really come to life, and that's worrying, of course. Not only for the economy, but for just people not able to heat their homes. I heard about the increase in interest on credit cards in the US, and the credit cards are already maxed out. So, how many Christmas shopping will be done in the US? We've seen the troubling China economy, less import, less export, less demand, basically. I don't see anything positive for the markets at this moment. So that's why I was surprised by how high they peaked, this little peak in the bear market. And I bought puts last Friday. I didn't go all in because it can still continue a bit. You know the market. You've been watching it yourself for 2 years now on a daily basis. But I can only see the markets ending lower than where we are at this moment by Christmas.
I like it. I'm in the same boat as you. I did buy I bought a last minute call on Friday as well, just for this week, just in case there is a short term rally. But I'm definitely more to the downside from here. And again, I think things can change week by week. We still got so much stuff, lingering in the global scale where we have Biden. I think tomorrow he's meeting with the president of China. So maybe we see any kind of, I don't know what's going to come out of that. Probably nothing good. Obviously, the Russia-Ukraine situation still going on over there. So at any moment, we could get some kind of move one way or another on that. But otherwise than that, I think you're right as far as the energy situation. Luckily, from what I'm hearing, and again, I'm not over there, from what I'm hearing is that Europe's had unseasonably warm weather thus far. Obviously, that's going to change, and then we see how that gets. I just got my gas bill yesterday, Birdie. I'm on the budget plan here, so basically you pay the same price all year round, to make it easier. I don't use as much gas in the summertime to heat things like that. Almost 100%, about 90, I think I did the math, 93% my bill went up this month. And that's on a budget plan, so that's not because of usage, that's just the cost, and that's over here. Yeah. So I'm with you on that. Germcorp, your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, first off, I've got a good tinfoil hat one for you, actually. Sort of, Grant and myself did a road trip a couple of weeks back. We met some interesting people on it. We met one bloke who'd actually made his money from the trading algorithm that was invented for Credit Suisse down the T1 broadband lines. So that was the first one. The second one was we met two logistical gas engineers who were basically, they work around the world, they go everywhere. And I was talking to them and said, so what's the situation, Because where they were in West Wales is a big supply depot for natural gas, LPG and LNG. And they said everywhere is absolutely full. He said there's ships off Spain full of gas, right? Everything's being kept away from being unloaded. So there's so much in the UK, they're actually supplying Europe at the moment. Now this guy, one was South African and one was Scottish. When the Scottish guy went out for a bit, the South African guy said this guy is probably the number one logistical engineer in the world. Everyone wants him. So there's a little bit of that going on. And when he came back and I asked him about it, he said it's all political when the price is high. So you got that. But yeah, unseasonal weather. Alrighty, the market, I can't see anything positive, but I'm a perma bear. I imagine that the Fed kind of wants stability more than anything else. They they probably don't want to see these markets. They obviously don't want to see this market crash off. But then again, there's a lot of the money that needs to be siphoned off is actually in the market. So I will be buying puts. Well, trying to buy puts on Friday. I like the idea of buying a call because that might just come in. Actually, I hope you got that cheap enough. Interest rates, yeah, there'll probably be a 50 basis point hike in December. But then I think the talk is going to be more stability, try to keep the market from crashing off. But there's a lot of events beyond anyone's control at the moment, and I think you've got to keep an eye on what happens. Yeah, Credit Suisse. Yeah, and what's the other one? Deutsche Bank. There's quite a lot of them looking a bit ropey, actually. So yeah, I think up until the end of the year, it's not that long now, is it? Just a month, basically. I think we're still in a bear market. If there's panic over any other events related to this FTX, then we could get a big hit on Nasdaq. It's all nonsense. They're firing loads and loads of people in the tech sector. That means they're not making any money. So fundamentally, why would you want to buy into them? So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
All right, I like it. I like it, and I like the boots on the ground. I like the meeting interesting people and bringing that. Now, when did they give you any expectations of when we see that gas to start coming into the market? Are they waiting for being political? Are they waiting for a price point? Are they waiting for somebody to give them the go ahead? Do you know what the end goal of them doing this is?
Not really. I mean, these guys, they travel on the world just basically, sort of checking these things and looking at what's going on. So they wouldn't, but they were just telling me that the supply is actually there, and they said the price doesn't, it's not man. It's you're sort of, there's stories that go out about the Russia thing and the politics will keep this high, but they said boots on the ground. There's plenty of stuff there, and they looked at. I mean, Birdie might know a bit more about the Europe situation with the ships off, Spain. They're the storage ships that they're deliberately being kept out at sea, to cause a bit of a squeeze, to be honest here. But yeah, boots on the ground. These guys just said there's piles of supply. In the UK in particular, there's a lot of supply.
Yeah, and I've talked to you guys on different occasions, but the same is going on for the Netherlands. We have plenty of natural gas, and the government just refuses to open up the installations. They are already there in the northern part. So there's not a lack of natural gas. It's all political.
Well, hopefully it's not people are end up freezing over the winter over political stuff. We know it's always existed, it always will exist, but when it comes to people being able to heat their homes, things like that, hopefully we see some kind of relief there. Do you guys see any kind of financial play? Obviously we don't want to make money off of anybody's misery, but do you see any plays in the gas sector as far as this with natural gas or with anything else? Are you staying away from energy because it's so muddied up, or do you guys see do either you see any kind of plays in the near future on any kind of energy, especially seeing these companies scrambling to get share buybacks done before the end of the year, things like that? Either you guys looking at anything in that sector?
Well, what I'm looking for is not the big oil and gas companies, because they are political. Those guys are connected to governments. But what I'm looking at is a company like USA, a small company, low value in their stock price now. And if there's a political change in the US and there will be growth again in the US, I'm quite sure that a Republican government would encourage US oil and gas production. And smaller companies like USA for instance, but also IMPP and companies like that we have discussed on the YouTube channels, might have a fair chance of really going higher. So those are the companies that I'm looking at. I'm not invested in Shell, Esso, or ExxonMobil, or Total Energy, or Engie even. Engie made a 9 billion quarterly earnings, and they reported it last week. That's a French company. Yes, their dividends are good, but a change of policy can easily change the charts again and make them go down because of extra taxes and things like that. So now I'm staying out of that. I can't predict where oil and gas will go.
Perfect. Germcorp, any thoughts?
Probably buy a way out the money put on gas far out, just in case peace breaks out.
I like that.
No, but if you look at the oil or at the gas prices, they are already quite low.
Yeah.
So be careful if you even buy puts at this level. I mean, if the economy turns.
Yeah, I was actually long it for a while and sort of made a bit of money out of the gas, and but it's just just the boots on the ground when they're telling me there's so much supply out there. I think there's room for the downside, but it's probably not going to be reflected until you get something like Russia, Ukraine start talks, and who knows what that's going to be.
I agree.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up, and I want to thank both you guys for being here and sharing this. It is my honor to talk to you guys about, especially looking at things on a global scale, and hopefully we can do this again soon. I know the people would like to hear it. We love your perspectives, and it's nice, like I said, to get an outside view. Always interesting, especially on stuff that's hard to look outside the box for me. It's hard to look at something like our election, something like that, from outside of the country. So really appreciate you guys being here and all your great insight. And hopefully we can do this again real soon. Anything you guys want to say before we wrap this up? Birdie, I'll let you go first, and then we'll kick it over to Germcorp.
It's always my pleasure to talk to you, MIA. You know that, and it's fun to record it once. And same goes for our new Welsh friend, Germcorp. It's really nice to hear his perspective as well. So I enjoy this, and let's do it again whenever we find the time, or whenever a big event happens. Let's do it again, of course.
Absolutely. Germcorp?
Yeah, thanks so much, Emily. It's been good. Listening to everyone and see what's going on out there. Let's do it again. Yeah, certainly.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, and that wraps this up. Look for another one of these coming soon.